The foreign ministers from the Group of 7 nations are meeting in Japan today. The leaders have assembled at the resort town of Karuizawa to discuss a host of global issues, which includes a united approach to China. On the agenda of the crucial meeting are the key issues: the war in Ukraine, China's aggression toward Taiwan, and the tension in the Korean Peninsula. At the meeting are ministers from the United States, Japan, Germany, Britain, France, Canada, Italy, and a representative from the European Union. The discussions will set the stage for a leaders' summit in Hiroshima next month. Now, the leaders arrived at the resort town by a special bullet train from Tokyo. They attended a working dinner on Sunday night. Host Japan is also ensuring that regional challenges are on the top of the agenda. China is at the center of discussions, and the top diplomats are looking to project unity over China. Just days ago, Beijing concluded major military drills around Taiwan, which it considers as a part of its own territory. On Sunday, a U.S. warship sailed through the Taiwan Strait, just days after China ended its latest war games. The U.S. Navy said that the USS Milius guided missile destroyer conducted a routine Taiwan Strait transit. This was the first such American operation through the waterway since January. China has said that it has tracked the American warship. Beijing accused the U.S. of publicly hyping up the warship's transit. Now, Chinese military spokesperson said that their troops remain on high level of alert at all times. At the G7 foreign ministers meeting, the focus will also be on North Korea. Japan, along with South Korea, have been confronted with a series of missile launches from Pyongyang. This includes the launch of its new solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. Apart from this, Tokyo will also emphasize its belief that Russia's invasion of Ukraine heightens the need for vigilance in Asia. Japan has repeatedly reiterated this stance, saying that security of Europe and that of the Indo-Pacific are intertwined.
In addition, as emerging and developing countries called the Global South are facing various challenges, we would like to show that the G7 is ready to work with them to tackle those issues. So from this standpoint, I would like to have a frank and in-depth exchange of views on various topics, like we did last night, over the course of 3 days, really in the meeting in Karuizawa. Those topics include Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific, including China and North Korea, Iran and Middle East, Afghanistan and Central Asia, and Africa.
Now, on the final day, the foreign ministers will discuss nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. Japan hopes to demonstrate the group's unity in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It also aims to formulate programs that can increase connectivity with the global south. And now, for more on this, we are being joined by Brian Hoy, who is the founding editor of the New Bloom magazine. Thank you for being with us. Now, what are we expecting from this meet of the G7 ministers? China surely to be at the center of discussions here.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think there will be warnings directed at China for its actions, but China will attempt to shrug this off or to allege that it is in fact Western countries that are, for example, violating its red line. China recently threatened, for example, in Taiwan, the 150,000 Philippines overseas workers. This was in response to comments made by the Chinese ambassador to the Philippines about U.S. basing access, that is to say, access for the U.S. to bases in the Philippines. And as the U.S. and the Philippines has renewed and stepped up their security agreement, their mutual security agreement, this has led to warnings from China because of the geopolitical tensions around Taiwan, but around the region more broadly as well, regarding the South China Seas and contested claims and so forth.
Right, and this, of course, coming at a time, as you've explained, where the tensions are high over Taiwan, and the U.S. just releasing the statement that they have sailed a warship through the Taiwan Strait and China saying that the US is hyping this transit of the warship.
Yeah, so transits of the U.S. warships through the Taiwan Straits are a regular occurrence as part of freedom of navigation operations, to emphasize that these are international waters. But then, often in response to Chinese military drilling, this is also to signal support for Taiwan. But the aim is to do this in a kind of non-provocative way. However, China is stepping up claims over the Taiwan Straits as a whole. For example, comments emphasizing that the Taiwan Straits is, as a whole, is the property of China. And so then China will react against this. And so this is a case in which both sides are kind of slinging back and forth at each other. But this kind of thing has happened before, and it is actually a form of military signaling response to China's drills. The danger, I think, though, is if we do have a pattern of tit-for-tat escalation between both sides, in which there is continual escalation.
Right, and we know that Japan has repeatedly said its stance that the security of Europe and that of the Indo-Pacific are intertwined. Do we expect any breakthroughs with the G7 in terms of this thought?
It does depend. For example, after the Chinese military drills, there was a French warship that shelled through the Taiwan Straits. And that occurred despite comments by Emmanuel Macron, the French president, suggesting that France should not get involved in conflict between the US and China in the Asia-Pacific, saying that is none of France's concern. But I think what is significant is that European countries do have military presences. They do have warships, they do have navies, and that could potentially play a role with regards to the Indo-Pacific and the Asia-Pacific. Though the involvement of some countries would be less likely, it is still a show of force and a show of international disapproval of China's actions. And so that's one way in which Japan or other Asia-Pacific countries perhaps would like Western powers become more involved in the region. Trade deals are another way, for example, of cementing economic ties that also signals political alignment. But I think particularly at a present, much of the potential for conflict in the world is discussed in terms of the Ukraine conflict. And so it's another reason why I think then Japan or other countries would use that as a kind of leverage to call for regional security, saying that nobody wants something like that to occur within the region.
Right, Brian, thank you very much for being with us on this broadcast and your valued insights on all that's coming out of that G7 meeting.